Meet Bex, also known as Cardsy B. She's an intuitive tarot reader and divination guide. You've probably heard of tarot, especially if you listen to our former podcast, Seeking with Robyn. As we all know, every practitioner has their own unique way of reading. In addition to her own special connection with spirit, the other part of Bex's secret sauce is that she sprinkles in astrology throughout the reading. And on top of sharing her gifts, she's just an all-around badass soul. So let's dive in. Hi, Bex.
Hi, Bex.
Hey.
So glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, ladies. I'm so excited.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you here.
Yes. I mean, every time we talk to you, there's always so much wisdom that comes through, even when we're just having just a catch up. So we're excited that we get to share with so many other people today.
Thank you. And it's great because we're just in such a powerful portal this month with February. There's the full moon in Leo, the 22222. Did I say that right? So powerful. So I love that we're coming together in this time.
Oh, and we're feeling it too, big time.
I know, we can't wait to talk more about it. But first, let's talk about the difference between a regular tarot reading and an intuitive tarot reading. Do you think that all tarot readings are intuitive? What's your opinion?
That's a really good question. And I think that one could argue that it's not all tarot readings are intuitive, that you can learn the data and analytics behind cards and read very fundamentally or very literally. And it doesn't mean that there's no truth in that. But I think that for me, I identify as an intuitive tarot and energy reader because I work with both. I learned the tarot when I was quite young. I was self-taught at age like 10, 11. And it was something I played with as kind of a hobby my whole life. And I always say that learning as a child, it's like learning a language as a child, that you put less rules and rigidity around how to read. You're kind of like, this is the card. What am I seeing? How does it make me feel? Later in life was where I built in studying more deeply about the numerology behind each card, the astrology, the Kabbalistic tie-ins. So that's where I could say, I do believe everyone is intuitive, number one, but I feel like a lot of people could read from more of a fundamental like tarot reading of, oh, this card means this astrological. I'm just looking at like, I have the High Priestess sitting on my table. This is the High Priestess. She's the most intuitive in the deck. She sits between light and dark. All of those things are true, but intuitively you might see this and be like, the first thing that's standing out to me is the association with the moon. There might be something coming up this week with the full moon. Let's look at that. So I think that that's the difference between a more literal reading, that's kind of a by the book memorization, and using your intuition to what do you see? How does it make you feel? What are the first messages that are hitting you when you look at a card?
Wow, so interesting.
How did you discover your intuitive gifts? And then the second part of that is, how do you use those when you're reading someone else's energy?
Definitely. I think that even the way that I learned tarot as a kid, I wasn't as rigid with myself as I was saying. And I kind of just played with, what does this card make me feel? What do I think of, or what do I associate with when I pull this card in the tarot? So that helps me be a little bit more open and a little bit more fluid with receiving energies. I think as a kid, I always got information in very non-conventional ways. And my mom and dad, they didn't really understand it. And they didn't mean to be dismissive of it, but they were just, as all of our parents, they're doing the best that they knew how with the tools that they had. And my dad would always say that I was very overly sensitive or very high maintenance because of the way that I would get information. I remember we would be driving certain ways and I would know that something bad happened on a certain road or like a path. And I would say, I don't like going this way. This is the depressing way. And my parents wouldn't understand that I knew something bad happened there. And then later in my career, I always enjoyed the metaphysical. I would save up my allowance, my money to buy astrology books and tarot, but I kind of abandoned that. It wasn't as cool as it is now. It wasn't as, I'm so grateful it is mainstream and that it is much more well received. But back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was very it was a hidden occult section of the bookstore. It was something that wasn't cool. It was seen as taboo and maybe dark energies. So I veered away from it as I moved into high school. So it was something that I had always enjoyed, but moved a bit away from in high school and then into college. Later in my life, I went into the fashion industry and I never really figured it out, I guess, until I came back into this work later on. But I was like, oh, the reason I was so successful at quite a young age was intuiting trends in the industry. Because I remember my first job, I designed for Nike. I'm the least sporty person. And I had the best selling men's basketball. Like I never even watched a men's basketball game. The best selling men's basketball short when I was literally working as a design assistant, maybe intern level, like while I was still in college. And people were kind of like, how does she do this? this? Like, how do you know what's going to sell? And it was kind of intuiting trend, intuiting what colors were going to be popular with the collective and tapping into the collective consciousness. And I was doing it from a fashion perspective, but later I saw like, oh, I thought that everyone could do that. I didn't think it was a special gift, and it served me, and it made me kind of escalate in my corporate career very quickly, but it wasn't the thing that was, I felt, my sole purpose long term. So I'm now coming into this work over the past 4 or 5 years, being able to offer energy readings and work with people one-on-one in groups, teaching intuition through the tarot. I'm so grateful to be able to utilize that and offer it to others in a way that I can see a ripple effect.
I was just going to ask before we move on to anything else, can you just, for people who are listening, define what you mean by that collective consciousness?
I think that that's such a good question. I feel like we as a collective, as all of us as humans on this earth plane, are emitting out energy, and we're all tapped into one another. And we can feel that. For example, if you walk into a room, you've probably had this with friends or family members, and they've been fighting, and you walk in, you know nothing about the situation, but you're just like, the energy feels heavy in here. It might feel dense. It might feel awkward, like, oh, I'm stepping into something that doesn't feel as comfortable as when I was just making my way over here on the street feeling. That is kind of how we all connect energetically. This has even been proven through quantum physics from a quantum perspective of, there's an experiment, I think it's called like the 100 monkey experiment, where there were monkeys learning to use this tool to eat with as opposed to with their hands. And they studied this, and when it reached 100 of them doing this, that were being observed with scientists like documenting the data, when it reached 100 of them, they were seeing other monkeys utilize this and kind of breaking things into tools and eating with them because they tapped into the collective consciousness, even though it was hundreds or thousands of miles away. So we emit these energies and we pick up on them from one another. Sometimes it's stepping into a space, like the example of the couple fighting. Sometimes when enough people are activated, like the 100 monkey experiment, we start to feel it. It's the same way that an idea will be birthed in Japan and then it happens at the same time in the US. And we're like, how did these two inventors at the exact same moment? It's tapping into the collective consciousness. So I think that that was always my ability with fashion. I don't think that I'm a fashion genius. I think that I was able to see, oh, the collective's going to gravitate towards this shade of navy in basketball this year, right? And not knowing why, but just like trusting it of like, I'm feeling this. And I think that I was successful, like I said, young because of that. And I was underestimated because I was this like tiny young little girly girl that was just like, I don't know this. And then it was selling. So it was quantifiable results. But I think that that was when I started to realize, oh, it's coming from somewhere I don't know. And then coming back into this work, like I said, when I transitioned full time back into my energy work in 2017, 2018 was when I realized, oh, we all use it. I think we're all working with tapping into collective consciousness through our intuition every day, but not all of us are very aware of it. So I think that that's what tarot is a really beautiful tool for, is it provides a mirror of how can we work with these energies, how can they reflect back in what we're seeing. And in that, in working with tarot, I find that I've learned to translate it in so many other ways in the world.
When you're reading someone's energy, how does that work? And would you say that tarot, for those that don't know tarot enough, do you think of it as a system that gives you a good baseline?
I'll answer the first part of the question first in terms of energy reading and how I work with that and how I would define it. I feel like there is overlap between a medium versus doing an energy reading. There's definitely similarities. I think that with mediumship, there's a lot of focus on being able to connect with those who have transitioned and crossed over to the other side. Sometimes that does pop up in readings for me. I always say it's not my major if we're talking like Hogwarts majors, right? Like I'm more of an energy reader with an expertise in tarot and astrology, but it does come through. But the way that I work with energy reading is I kind of ask permission of the person that's seeking a reading from me to tap into their higher self. Some people will say it's their spirit guide. Some people will say connecting to the universe. Going back to the definition of collective consciousness, I believe we are all connected as a one. So I see spirit guides and our higher self as the same thing. Like if we're all players in this game and we're our avatars right now, we're in the game, our higher self is the one who wrote the game, who's also playing and directing the game. So I pulled the energies from all aspects of us, of me, of the person that I'm reading for, and that's where the information comes through. And so it's funny, I've had people ask that are skeptics, like, by whom is this governed? And I would say by the same source of all of the universe. So if you want to call that God, if you want to call it the universe, universe. Some people say it's their spirit guides. I believe all of that is a oneness, and it's taking that and translating it through. And I use the tarot to translate it.
Oh, that's so perfectly.
Yeah.
By whom this is governed. I was just going to maybe follow up a little bit on what Robyn was asking too, is I know a lot of people are a little trepidatious about tarot in the sense that they may feel afraid, a little Ouija boardish, like, should I really be dabbling in that area? What do you say to people who may have that little bit of fear factor coming into a reading?
100%. And I understand that, because there are both really beautiful parts of the history of tarot, and there's some dark occult history of tarot. I won't go into all of like the nerdy historian elements, but there's like the Thoth tarot, and that went into a really dark place with Aleister Crowley and where he took it. But there was also a lot of light work that was done with it. And I explain that, like everything, if you utilize the analogy of a knife can both take someone's life, but also can prepare food to nourish. And the same as social media and the digital space. It's done a lot of damage. There's bullying that occurs. There's a lot of, negative aspects of censorship and negative information that occur in that space, but there's also connection. We connected through that. And I've connected with so many members of my soul family through Instagram as a platform. So anything can be perceived as light or shadow, but everything truly has both. So I think because elements of the shadow aspects of tarot were kind of put out there and either glamorized in Hollywood or made more known than some of the light work and the healing elements. I think that is kind of coming back into calibration in the past couple of years, honestly. But I think that's why there's some fear around it. But for me, I always say, if it resonates with you, it's a beautiful tool that can really, really help tap into and activate our intuition. And if it doesn't, there's so many other tools out there. If you're drawn to divination tools, there's oracle cards, there's pendulums, there's other actual tools that can also provide physical mirror to direct back in. I've always resonated with tarot. I believe I've probably worked with it in many past lives because it came very quickly and very intuitively and efficiently through to me.
It's like an amplifier, isn't it? Like, is it an amplifier of people's energy? That's how I think of it.
And some people, I know that there are powerful mediums. I know that, Robyn works as a medium. Some people can tap into that without any exterior divination tools, which is always something I admire. I compare it to being a mirror in the way that if you go in and need to try on something and you need to see a mirror to try it on. I worked in fashion for forever, so I can usually not even try stuff on and be like, that's going to look good on me. Or I could try it on in the dark and be like, perfect fit. And some people, like, the mirror brings back to like, oh, this is a fit. And to me, tarot helps with energy work, providing that mirror. And it's also a roadmap of organizing the information, because a lot of times in a reading, a lot will come through, and it helps me to put it all out and be like, okay, now I'm organizing so that I can translate the most clearly and most effectively for the person that I'm reading for.
Wow, you put that so clearly. And I love the way you described it. And it really is the way that you read. So it's so cool. And then we'd love for everyone to hear how you integrate astrology into your readings.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely. Well, because all of the 78 cards have an astrological or elemental ruling. So, for example, the major arcana are mostly ruled by a planet. I'm just looking here, like Empress is ruled by Venus, right? The moon ruled by Pisces. All of the minor arcana they're ruled by astrological placements. So 9 of Cups, for example, Jupiter in Pisces. If you're already versed in astrology or you're astrologically inclined, that's one of the things that has helped me, because it helped me understand deeper layers and kind of gives more data points in a reading. If that stands out, it might be like, oh, this might be occurring in Pisces season, but that's something depending on the placement of other energies and cards around it. And then also, I feel like it just helps as we move through transits. Like, we're just having this full moon in Leo, and Leo is all about passion and strength and love and beauty. So looking at in the tarot, it's Leo rules the strength card and Leo's ruler is the sun. So I look at those two cards of what happened with this full moon, of the sun illuminating, shining light on where we can step into our power and in abundance, where we can welcome love and passion in a bigger way. But the strength card being, we don't want to force it either. I always say, like, I'm a former mana forcer, and I've learned in this work a lot about surrender. And this full moon in Leo was like, yes, we can feel this activation. A lot is coming in. There's a lot of really powerful new partnerships in terms of abundance and collaboration. I see so many people coming into divine union right now, which is so exciting because I usually get people that are coming to readings or sessions in crisis. And I've seen so many people that are really opening to love and coming into divine partnership. And that was a pivotal point around this full moon in Leo. So I look at those both ways of what the astrological rulings can be in a reading. And when we're in big astrological transits, what cards correspond, what lessons are in those archetypes, and what can they teach us as we're navigating them.
You are just a library of wisdom. I don't know how you keep it all together because I know, and what everyone listening should know is as you're doing the readings, it's coming to you so quickly. So as you're going through, you're able to express all of that and integrate all of that wisdom that you know about astrology and tarot into these very specific messages about each life.
People walk away from the reading with so much more because it's not just an interpretation of cards, which I can see a lot of people thinking like, oh yeah, well, that was just luck of the draw or whatever, that it was relevant. You know, you bringing in this added layer of astrology to it just makes the reading so much more deep and meaningful.
Well, one of the things I found with astrology too, so the way that people often gravitate to mediums if they're trying to connect with their loved ones on the other side, I'm known for reading timelines, and astrology does help guide me in that. Sometimes some things will come through as a matter of weeks or a matter of months, but I'm like, oh, okay, this is hitting in Taurus season, and I can sense that that's when this is going to come through, or there's going to be a shift that is going to be opening and empowering for you. So I find that helps me to shine light on the highest probable timeline. And it's not something we have to be married to, like, oh, she said it's Taurus season, but just as things occur, I always encourage people to record the sessions. I do most of my virtual sessions on Zoom, or at least take notes if there's something, because so many people, I've had people that are like, oh, there's no way. They find it too optimistic of like, oh no, I had this one woman who I said, I saw this person coming through at work, and she was like, I work in a startup with 8 people and they're all fugly. And I was like, okay, well, like think bigger. I think it's bigger. It could be a client, it could be a vendor. And then I said, this connection's happening in the next 5 weeks. She said exactly at the 5th week, she saved the reading that it was someone from the London office, and they're now engaged. I'm so happy about this. I hear that back a lot of like, oh, I can't see it now. But what I really try to do, and what I invite as I work with my higher self, the universe, source in this, is shine the light on the highest probable timeline and give the clarity, helpful, healing, and empowering message to allow people to step into their highest probable time. So a lot of times things will come through and I get dates or specific astrological transits or periods that people are like, no way it's going to happen that fast, or I can't even see it. And it's like, okay, well, hold space for it. Doesn't mean you have to know how, just hold space for the possibility. And I love when those, like, that's one of the biggest joys in my job, is when those things come to fruition.
Wow. Well, can we talk about 2022? It's such a powerful, like we've been talking about nonstop about how rare, right, this is in the whole millennial of time that these numbers are all lining up together. My daughter's getting married on that day. She's decided like to part at 2:00. And that's it. It's a Tuesday. I mean, it's just all about, as we know, a great day for partnering in general. But I would just love to hear your perspective on that and what you think that holds for us, not only right now, but in the weeks to come.
Totally. It is a palindrome date, number one, which means palindrome is that it reads the same front to back. So that's a really interesting portal, in that it's like always lead to within. And the 2 is the high priestess in the tarot. So I always look at that when I was saying that is the card ruled by the moon, the most psychic card in the deck, the ability to integrate light and shadow and kind of unlock some hidden doors. So I think there's going to be a lot of things that were maybe in shadow or compartmentalized for people in a good way coming out and coming to integration. It's also the card of partnership and unity. So all of the 2s in tarot are about unification, about balance and harmony. So it's a beautiful day to get married on, 100%. Like I was saying, a lot of people very activated with the full moon in Leo this month, coming into divine union, or they have found their partner and it's getting more connected and more intensified over the next couple of months. So the 222 portal is really a spotlight on that. And when we add it up in numerology, it adds up to a 12 and that's to a 3. So the 3 is all about bringing things to fruition. It's the Empress card in the tarot. The Empress, in my deck, it's Angelina Jolie with all her babies strapped to her, because it's kind of that like divine warrior goddess, but like who's like the nurturer mother as well. So it's like we're bringing things out we're birthing things from a place of strength and purpose and our mission, but there's also that Venus ruled beauty and divine mother elements of this. So I definitely see this as a beautiful union happening, this wedding on 2222, and they're calling it Tuesday, TWOSDAY. So I think it's a lot of unification, a lot of love energy. We're in a 6th year, which is the year of the lovers in the tarot, which is all about collaboration, unity. For those of you that are exploring this from a business perspective in your career and your purpose, it's a great day to hold meetings that may involve new collaborations, new partnerships. And even if you don't have big meetings or big projects launching on that date, it's a good day to put intentions out there. And also, I'm going to say on the complete flip side of this, if this doesn't resonate, you don't have to make it happen. I always say, take that, much like tarot as a tool, it's so powerful and so healing for me. Other people don't resonate with tarot at all. They may use oracle cards. With these portals, if you're feeling it, if you feel activated, if you're hearing about it and you're like, oh, I want to work with this, I want to do something, it's for you. It's kind of like that message is for you. This portal is for you. But for those people that aren't necessarily feeling it, it's not the only potential portal. There are so many, and it's not just the palindrome dates, the repeat number dates. It can be an astrological transit. I said that like Valentine's Day this month was a freaking portal for me. I'm super cheesy. I'm a Sagittarius. So I like run around like Cupid and give gifts to all of my friends. I'm super single, but it's my favorite. Like I love it. I'm like, oh, it's a heart chakra portal. So whatever activates you, work with it. I do think this is a very powerful one. I'm going to be working with this energy on the 22nd, but if you're going to know if it's for you. It's kind of like if you're on a freeway and you know where your ramps are. You're like, oh, that's where I'm meant to be going. That's going to be the express path to there. Trust it if you feel it. But if you feel nothing, you're not wrong either. There's probably other portals coming up for you.
And would you say too, if you are feeling it, and let's say it's not from a business perspective, but would you say it's a really good day to set intentions?
Definitely. And working with 2 as a number, when I was saying the High Priestess, it is kind of one of the most intuitive cards of knowingness and knowing our inner self. So being redirected back to when I was saying it's unlocking things that may have been in shadow, and not in a scary way. I think people think of that with the High Priestess of, am I going to unlock this Pandora's box? Maybe I don't want to know. It's the same fear that people have in receiving a reading. Like, maybe I don't want to know. And it's a knowingness that's going to offer more empowerment and more clarity that's coming through on that day. So that, like I said, it may be for business, it may be for love, but it can even just be things that you've been sensing. Something big is coming. A lot of us have been feeling, I know that these things that I've been planting the seeds for, I know it's on the way in, whether it's a divine partnership, romantic relationship, whether it's something in business, whether it's a geographic move. Like I know it's coming, but I can't quite see how. There's probably a lot of information that will be come through that will be downloaded on the 22nd if you do send intentions and space to receive it.
So is that how you would suggest people work with that energy then?
Yeah, I think that everyone has their own way of working with that. And it's some people love meditation and they're like, I'm going to set time and space aside to meditate on that day, whether it's a guided meditation, a walking meditation, just like seated to receive information. Some people, they're like, I'm not a meditator. Maybe you're a journaler and maybe you're going to sit and just free write what's coming through that day, what you're feeling. And other people are very ritualistic. I love to work with candle magic. I always say I identify as a witch, like definitely a good witch. I do a lot with herbology and candles in addition to the tarot. So I probably will work with setting intentions with candles of what I'm allowing space for to come through. But I think that everybody definitely has their own ways of receiving information and putting intentions out to the universe. So whatever you gravitate toward, and whether that's been how you've received it in the past, the things that feel the most in flow for you, whether it's meditation, whether it's journaling, whether it's more ritualistic work, it's just a great day to work with those energies.
I know what I'll be doing.
Take the whole day off of work.
Be setting lots of intentions.
You know what? Because it's like the number 2 is a lot about the divine feminine and receiving. So many of us, especially women, I think have a hard time with receiving. And we've been so trained to, it's funny with the Empress, the Angelina Jolie card, which it nets down to a 3 of like, we're taking care of, whether we're mothers, we're taking care of kids, we're doing, our job, we're doing all the things. I only have a Pomeranian fur baby. So when I say we, I mean my fur baby, but it's that this energy of we're supposed to be in giving and doing and creating mode. And though there's a lot of joy in that, many of us struggle with the receptivity. So I think that also 222 is a good day to receive. And that may even be the way that you're going to invite these energies in, or we're work with the intentions is going to receive a massage or going to receive a Reiki session. It doesn't have to be a big complex ritual if that's not something that if that feels overwhelming, or I don't even know where I would begin. Your homework can literally be go get a massage. Just being in receptive mode and saying, I want to receive what's supposed to come through to me on this day.
I hope everyone's listening. Go do this. Let's talk about your badass tarot deck, because I know we've mentioned it a few times. Obviously, this is a podcast, but you can actually go take a look at Bex's deck on her site, cardsb.com. It is so different and so cool and so empowering. Can you talk about the deck in general and how you came up with it? And
thank you so much for that beautiful intro. Yeah, so it's called the Badass Bitches Tarot. When I learned to read as a child, I worked with a deck derived from the Smith Rider-Waite, which is kind of the most famous. If you guys have seen pictures of tarot, you've probably seen ones that are of the Smith Rider-Waite deck. So that's what a lot of people learn with. It's the most iconic, the most well-known, the most sold throughout the world. But I had read with the same deck. I would always buy new decks, and I would keep going back to my childhood one. And I was on a trip in Amsterdam, and it was, I think, 2017. And my best friend was with me. I grew up partially in Amsterdam. So I was going to all my favorite little like metaphysical boutiques, shopping for a deck. And I said, I want one that's all empowered women. And we were finding these very etheric fairies or angels or goddesses. And I was like, no, I want like badass women. And my friend said to me, you should just illustrate it, because I have a background in fashion and I do illustrate. And it was one of those little aha moments that it wasn't exactly then, because I was like, oh, that's a cool idea, but it sounds like a lot of efforting. I don't know, but it stayed with me. And then a month or two later, I thought, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to, even just to teach with, because the way that I teach is very kind of pop culture driven. So in my deck, for example, the Justice card is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And when I was saying the Empress is Angelina Jolie, and I would describe this is why. The Hierophant, which is the teacher of life lessons, is the Oprah card. And it's kind of like, because it is those super soul lessons, those moments of perspective, even when they're challenging, that will change the course of your life. So I would always explain this when I would teach in small groups or teach online groups. And my best friend was saying, you should just do it in the way that you teach. 2 months after that kind of little moment, that seed was planted, I illustrated my own deck. And my intention was purely to teach with. I was like, if nothing else, this is what I'll read on Instagram with. This is what I'll teach others when I teach groups. And then someone reached out to me from a publishing house. Then I got picked up by Paradigm Agency, and it was completely unplanned. I literally thought, I'm going to print the one of this, maybe two for when it gets dirty. I am blown away, and I'm so grateful that it's sold all over the world, that people are reading with it. And, in many places, I see it popping up on social media, and it's so cool that it's resonated with people all over. That was not my intent. It happened very organically. And I think a lot of times when we do come into our soul purpose and we stop trying to control the path forward and just lean into this feels good. This feels like where I'm being called to go. I don't know why. I remember just being on my floor, illustrating with watercolor pencil with my dog, and thinking it was just this like little project I was doing. I didn't see it as a business venture that it kind of inadvertently became.
It translates kind of what seems to be like foreign symbology into things that everybody can relate to. And then kind of just going back to the fear factor, it's like when you see those cards come up, it's like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, it really does. It helps normalize everything. And your story is so inspiring, like just the way that came to be. I actually didn't realize that.
I have moments of just crying of gratitude that I get to do this, because I had a really major dark night of the soul in 2017, where I had gone through in my Saturn return from 2014 to 2017, I went through a divorce. My best friend and mentor passed away of HIV related complications. I lost my big corporate job. I was this global VP. I lost that job. I had started my own lingerie line. It looked cool on the surface, but was bleeding money. And I literally went through all of my money. And I was in a state of extreme poverty that a lot of people didn't know about, because you can present well on social media. And from what my old life was, people had assumed like, oh, I'm just still living the dream. And I had this really dark night of the soul breakdown. And one of the things that pulled me from a place of suicide attempt into, I want to tap back into this lifetime and I want to be of service, was tarot. Because I was pulling just a card a day for myself. And it was one of the only things I could honestly afford at that time. And I kind of remembered the healing that came through in it, and that there was something I could do that was of service, that was free. I was like, I'm not going to need production runs of garments, because I kept thinking like, I don't even know what I have to offer the world right now. And that was such a dark place to be in. And I think that tarot does bring that of like, oh, I have my intuition and I have these messages that I can translate. plate. And that was such a pivotal turning point. So it was shortly after that, I was in my process of healing and I had come back into tarot. I had started meditating and my best friend and I went on a trip to Amsterdam because it's a place that feels like home for me, that I grew up there. And it was just in this little bookshop. I remember that moment. We all have those moments, those aha, like hero fat moments where she was like, just illustrate your own deck. And I maybe at that point had 1,000 followers on Instagram. I was not that big of a deal. I was booking mostly through word of mouth in terms of my sessions. I don't even know if I had a website back then. If I did, it was not a good one. And the fact that then like publishers and agents were reaching out to me because of this deck was such a blessing. And it felt very channeled in its creation.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, it was already an inspiring story, but now it's even more so. And I think that there's so many people who do reach that point of not knowing what to do and not knowing how to continue. And so the fact that you, number one, shared that and look where you are now, you are feeling so fulfilled right now. And you found your path, you found your way back on the track that you're supposed to be in this lifetime. But so many of us maybe not have to get to that point, but we all have these trials and tribulations that make this the journey. That's why it's the journey of this lifetime.
Definitely.
And you definitely followed it. Feels like something that was planted within you from the very beginning. The fact that you were playing as a child with tarot cards and were so fascinated. It was always in there. It's just you almost had to go through those trials and tribulations to get to that place to be open enough. What is next on your list?
So I'm finishing my book. I'm halfway through it. It's going to be finished by the end of 22, which is a big, scary venture. And I think that was something that I, like the tarot deck, was called to do. I've done tarot scopes for some magazines. I do write a little bit, but I don't consider myself an author or a writer. So to go into this was a big undertaking, but that's going to be coming out. And that was facing kind of surrendering again. So I'm being called to do this. It feels very foreign. I don't know where it's going to take me. And I'm also launching some online digital courses on my site of tapping into intuition through tarot. So there's going to be some how to read, but also how we access our own inner knowing through reading. So it can be also for people that just want to read for themselves, to learn how to work with intuitive messages, downloads that are coming through. Because as I said, for me, that unlocked a lot. And what now I started to receive them in other ways in the world. The tarot is kind of the roadmap, but it's what unlocked that in me, and being able to see other layers of information as a result of tapping into intuition through tarot is so powerful.
So exciting. There's so much to learn from you. Thank you for being someone who's also not just a teacher, but you're also a guide, and you're just real. Like at the same time, you're sharing what's going on in your own life.
I feel like that about both of you too. And I think that that's what's so powerful right now, is just embracing our human. Even when we've cleared maybe levels of stuff, it's a spiralic process and there's always more to clear. I've been in moments with writing this book that I'm crying and I'm like, who am I to do this? Can I finish this? And I am really candid and open on my podcast about that, because I am very much human and I love being a human in this existence. And I'm not exempt, even after moving through a lot of darkness that I did do healing around. There's all these layers of processing beyond that and these new things that come up. And I love that about both of you and how you speak, how you share information, and the way that you teach, because you really are teachers on your podcast and on your platform, because it does tap into the desire to connect and unify and feel that we're not alone on this journey.
Thank you. Thank you. It's true. We are so human. We chose to be, right? And so it is going to be up and down. So we should be sharing it, and where we can help one another, that's what we're here to do. So actually, speaking of that, can you share with everyone a card that you will pull for the week of 222? So it's really for the week of starting 221.
Yes, okay. So we have 9 of Pentacles, and I feel like this is a card of independence and really claiming our independence. It's also when we do that, because I think there's been a story of mutual exclusion of when we take care of ourselves, it's selfish. When we claim independence in ways, or we're trying to do what feels freeing and feels right for us, we have the concern of, is that right for the collective, and the balance between the two. And 9 of Pentacles is kind of when we stand in our truth, when we truly take care of ourselves and we just be in our true essence, it empowers others to do the same. So I think that this week, ways that we can just take care of ourselves, ways that we can do things that may not be quote unquote productive. It doesn't have to be about an end goal of, if I do this, then this is the reward. It's just, does this light you up? Does it bring you joy? And in doing that, it's going to inspire others to do the same as well. I've noticed this. I'm such a little ridiculous, like Elle Woods of tarot. And I remember thinking, am I still going to resonate with shoes and accessories and going out to nice restaurants? When I came into this work, am I supposed to just live in Costa Rica and like wear like a grass skirt and be very, and I so celebrate people that do that, but I'm like, no, this is me. This is part of how I celebrate my avatar and enjoy the human existence. So this week, especially with the Pentacles aspect of earth energy and abundance, the more that we celebrate what feels like us, like our true signature, what brings us joy, there's going to be reward from that. And it's also going to inspire other people. And that can be as simple as being in a work Zoom and saying something that is your truth. That could just be like a funny comment and letting your true signature come out. There's going to be moments of connection and reward that come through for that. It could be in a relationship. Nines are ruled by the hermit. So there's an aspect of being able to be vulnerable with the hermit, of like not always going all the way within, but being able to share and come without. So I feel like there's going to be aspects of sharing our vulnerable selves with, whether that's our partners, romantically, friendships, family members. So where can you really show up and commit to showing up as the true essence of you this week? There's going to be rewarding moments, and it's almost going to happen instantaneously when we do it, of like, I'm scared to do the thing. And then there's a payoff and a reward shortly thereafter, if not immediately.
Well, and that feels like it ties into the energy of this full moon that's starting now, right? Because over the next few weeks, aren't we integrating all these things that we learned and being more vulnerable so that we can transform?
Yes, definitely. And as we move, because we're moving out of Aquarius into Pisces, it's the last sign in the zodiac. Pisces are always intuitive AF because they've moved through all the lessons. And in the tarot, because I always, when I say I integrate like the astrology and the tarot, we're moving from the star energy into the moon. And a lot of times people love the star of Aquarius because it's a little bit of a respite. It's kind of like, oh, breathing new life. We have that Uranus energy. Moving into Pisces after this full moon in Leo, we're integrating, and people are like, oh, I just want to get the downloads, and the integration is not as fun, but that's where the power happens. So in this upcoming week, talking about like standing in our true essence, we're integrating, like to your point, Robyn, a lot of what we've moved through, especially over the full astrological year from Aries until now, but especially over the past few months in winter, because Pisces also wraps up the end of winter. So what are the lessons we learned? What are the ways that we weren't being true to ourselves, that we realized it wasn't serving us? And where can we stand fully in who we've become and who we realize that we are at the core in Pisces season? And that really is the integration work of the moon.
Wow. Yeah. The other part that I'm just going to bring up, which you wouldn't know, Karen and I do this weekly download, which we meditate together for 10 minutes and with the intention of receiving messages that are for the highest good of everybody that's listening. And what usually comes is really shocks us because it's so synchronistic. And everything actually that you just said about when you pulled the card and being vulnerable and the independence and stepping into the truth of who you are.
And Robyn, did you hear her say unlock hidden doors?
Yes. Oh, I heard that. And that's literally what we saw and what we heard. And it was about actually, and I kept seeing too, in addition to unlocking the door and stepping in, it was then stepping into your own light and being who you are, becoming more of who you are and letting people know, but then also tapping into that energy of being like a kid in a candy store, like in the awe of everything, which is your truth. It's who you are, remembering who you are, which is what you're talking about.
Yes. I love the way that you worded that. It's so beautiful. And it's so powerful because it seems like, oh, I shouldn't just be, there should be some element of work and efforting to it. And I think when we really just are our true essence, our true selves, that's where, to your point, it's when the doors are unlocked. It's when the power is activated within us. And it also has the ripple effect of activating others. And that's something that I've just started stepping into even over the past couple of months of seeing that, because I think we've been so trained in Western society, even for those of us who have worked in corporate, of there's a way to show up, there's a way to speak, there's a way to engage. And it's like, what if I'm just me? And what if I just show up as my little like Elle Woods tarot witch self? And then some people may fall away, but the people that come in, I'm like, yes, you're my people, you get me. And then we're creating alchemy and magic together because it's those on your frequency that are gravitating towards that. But I think it's a lot of deprogramming of ways we're supposed to be, how we should and should not appear or show up. But but I think many of us are being activated to like, I can't be fake anymore. I can't put on these facades or these layers over my true self.
So everything that you just said, everything that we downloaded, it's not an accident. They're all integrated because we're all tapping into that overall collective consciousness.
Thank you so much for sharing your gift, for sharing your story, for being vulnerable, and really for also teaching a lot of people today about your work, about tarot, about astrology, and really about possibility. So thank you so much, Bex.
Thank you so much for sharing this space with me. I'm so grateful for the work that both of you two do and that I get to co-create with you in this lifetime. Thank you.
Yes, we feel the same way.
Yes, and hopefully many, many more as we
visit Bex at cardsy.com to book a reading or learn more about tarot. You can also buy her Badass Bitches tarot deck for yourself and check out her other witchy products. Plus, you can listen to her weekly podcast, Hex in the City, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And you can also follow her at Cardsy B on Instagram. Don't you just love Bex? Now Karen and I are going to give you our download of the week. And of course, the secret power you can start using today. Okay. I have a golden door and I heard level up and then open your mind to the possibilities of what is. And then I saw us literally in a candy store as kids. And we were in such awe. We were like, look at that. I want that. Can we have that? And then I really even heard like a kid in a candy store, and we were skipping. Then we were in an old school soda fountain shop and we were having our sodas or malts and enjoying it and just being so excited. And then we were all of a sudden with a snap of a finger in a very modern setting. It must have been, I can only imagine even 100 years from now. And then I heard it's all possible, which tied to the open your mind to the possibilities of what is. And then it was believe, see, be one with the light, have no fear, have the balls to move on. And then I saw us in a field dancing and being silly. And then I heard it goes by in a snap, live with joy, have no regrets. Stop worrying about everything because it's just silly. It's literally a waste of time. Just do it. You get in your own way, open the door and step into the light. Home is within. Claim it. No judgment. Remember to laugh and have fun and be silly. We're all taking things too seriously. Stay in the moment.
Gosh, there's so much good stuff there.
I know when I set the intention to receive messages for everyone who's listening's highest good for the week of February 21st, I was immediately shown that door. And to me, that represents the portal that's happening on February 22nd. At least that's the feeling that I got, even though I honestly didn't have that going into our meditation. I just really, not that I forgot about it, it just wasn't top of mind. But then I was immediately shown that. It really feels like an opportunity of new energy coming in to help us recognize the energy and light within us, almost like a connector. I feel like it's going to help us connect more with our own energy within to every energy around us and within the universe. And this reminder that at some point soon, we have to talk about quantum physics and have someone on that can really help describe it, because I think I'm being shown that all of this is happening at once. That's way too mind-blowing at the moment to really discuss, so we're not going there. I also was shown in the visuals of what I was seeing were all these lights, like everyone being a light. So the light from within literally shining through and connecting all of us together. That's what I was shown. And then it was like needing to take it down to a visual that everyone can understand, which is why I feel like I was shown us in a soda fountain shop, and I was made to see and feel what it's like for a little kid in a candy store going like, I want that one and that one and that one. Oh my goodness, that pure innocent excitement. And then to be shown the same scene, but in this very, very modern world, and that it all can happen in a moment. That's the idea. And that to me means like anything can happen at any time. Like you dream it, believe it, but you have to step into your own light in order to feel it, in order to experience. We definitely come down and have these lives on purpose. They are to level up our soul. We go through these trials and tribulations, as well as all the joyous moments on purpose, really to evolve on a soul level. And it doesn't matter what kind of car you drive or what school you go to. Those things don't really matter, but we make them matter in this life. We forget. It's this reminder that in the light, we don't have fear. We don't compare ourselves to others. We're connected. And so if you could live as much of your moments in that space, which I know we can't live all ourselves in those moments. That's not reality, which is why we're doing this show, because we're trying to make it real, but we're also here to remind or introduce these concepts, because in those moments that you can remember that really a lot of this is ridiculous. So much of what we're sitting and worrying about is so silly. And it doesn't take away though, that it's real, right? That there is real sickness and real pain and real fear, but how can we do our best to flip it? I don't have the answer. We can just be the nudgers.
But even in the moments that we do this mind meld, we're transported back to that essence of who we are. I think we just forget that we have that power to do that any time we want to do it. And what your visual just did, I think, for so many people is remind them, like, I can so visually see what you saw. And it is that idea of harnessing that power of 2 and opening that golden door of ourselves and just stepping in, and even for a moment thinking about what that feels like, thinking about what that effervescent light and feeling like a little kid again does to your soul, even in that moment
right?
And where that takes you. And I just love this idea of utilizing this as that portal to take that timeless trip.
Yes.
To feel that.
I think it's all about open the door, and level up. It's open the door and become also more aware of all the things that get attracted to that light. Once you open that door and you step in and you are one with that light, what else comes? It's that feeling, as we've just been talking about, of joy, wonder, excitement, and what comes with that other light that's like that. Who in your life becomes even a bigger part of your life because their light's shining so bright, and so is yours. And the darkness kind of starts to go away. It goes into that freezing the negativity, that exercise we did, because your light's shining brighter.
Yeah, I think it goes also back to the signs as well, and playing that almost little kid's game.
Exactly. It's that awareness.
Right. And if you ask for them, it's so much fun to do. Ask without expectation. Ask without specific rules around when it has to happen or what it has to be or how direct, but just ask and let your heart decide.
That's right.
Real or not. I think that's the thing that can get you back into that sort of portal mentality of, oh my gosh, and I can make things happen for myself and ride the joy.
I love that. Ride the joy. I mean, look, we're living through one of 60 days within 1,000 years that will have that type of magical date. That's special in itself.
And that power of the two. It's how the whole world was created in that way. Nobody was meant to be by themselves, was meant to be alone, but it also talks about just the duality of who we are too, right?
It does.
And love and fear and all those things to be balanced in that light energy of how we came to be, that we're all attached to. We're all part of that same energy. You just have to remember it's there. I just love the door. I can just see that big, beautiful golden door being opened. It's like that simple tool, right? Choose love or fear. It's like you can open that door at any moment and literally be there.
Exactly. Well, let us know what you all see when you open the door and you step into your light. We want to know. So our secret power this week is all about the signs that are all around you from the universe. And Karen and I, we literally talk about signs every day. But what shocks us though, is that for many, many years prior to us knowing each other, we didn't even know about signs. It wasn't until the last 10 or 15 years that signs is even a thing for us.
That's right. And I think little by little, we were taught that they can really be seen anywhere you can ask for them. It really is a secret power.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
To ask for those signs. And the best part of it is how they show up. They really do. And I always feel like they show up when you least expect them. The trick is you have to ask. The second is you have to kind of give it a little bit of a context, how you want to see a sign, but then you let it go like everything else. And it's amazing to me how quickly those signs just show up when you least expect them. It's a reinforcement from the universe that
it is. It's validation. I like to say play with the universe. It is playing to get that validation that you are not alone. And whether you ask from the universe, if you have a deceased loved one that you're really wanting to receive a sign from, there's so many different specifics you can look for. And other times they find you, as long as you're aware enough. If you find that on a daily basis, you keep looking up at the same time. For me, it was 11/17. And I was like, 11/17, that's my dad's birthday. That was really early on. And then it became like much bigger thing. It wasn't just when I was looking up, realizing it was 11/17. That became a much bigger symbol in my life. But these things come out of the blue. I know that sometimes I will ask for a sign just to know I'm not alone. And lo and behold, I'll forget about it, as you said. And then several hours later, and maybe sometimes it could even be the next day, I will see something that you can't deny. So right. For instance, for me, there's a license plate in my area. I don't know if they live in my town, but I've seen it at the weirdest times. It's Bob 76. My dad's name was Bob. He died on July 6th. And so that number is significant for me. And when I ask for guidance, I get Bob 76 in your BMW, you show up. So if anyone listening knows them, just let them know. Thank you for that license plate. But I also see 76 now, just 76. There's a dealership here who loans cars out, and 76. And it always comes when I need it the most. And again, I'm not looking, I forget about it. And then all of a sudden I'm just behind the car. I'm like, oh my God. But your story, you have to tell this story.
Well, first of all, I just have to say, and this is why I know it works. I always look for license plates since you've been looking for license plates, and I never see them ever, ever, ever. So I gave up license plates. I know that that's not my sign. No, mine, I love to tell this story about how I was playing the game. I had read a book or something, or maybe we were talking about it. I don't know. And I was one of those really down little periods I had. And I was like, all right, let's see if this stuff really works. And I remember thinking to myself, but I'm not going to make this easy. I really want this to be a test to see if I get my sign. And so I said, okay, I want to see 2 pink elephants. That's it. I'm going to see 2 pink. I was like, seeing an elephant even is a weird thing, but bring me 2 pink elephants. And so again, I forgot about it really. And I was going through the city. I was in Penn Station of all places, going into work, and I had to get a birthday card for someone. So I skedaddled into a little shop that just had cards. That was the only thing that the shop had. And I was going to pay for the card. And lo and behold, there was a little discount tray beneath the place where you swiped your card. And it had 2 pink elephant little coin purses in it. That's all that was in there. Just those 2 little pink elephants. Like they literally were facing each other. And it stopped me in my tracks. And of course I bought them. I had to buy both of them because it's just unquestionable. There's just no way there could have been 2 pink elephants separated in to one end of the store, but they were right there together on that little tray together. So I love that. And I think there's also the other thing I wanted to mention is when you have a deceased loved one, I think that's the place where I think it suspends all time, space, reality, and where signs are really the most important and where you hear from people the most. I remember when my mother-in-law passed and literally getting ready to go to her funeral and opening the sliding glass doors to just go out and see what the weather was like. And there was this bluebird right there, and she loved bluebirds, and it literally smelled like her outside. There's those things, and it's unquestionable. Like I knew that was a sign that she wanted, she wanted me to see that. And she also wanted me to tell other people about it.
Yes. Well, and even like our story, I mean, we won't go into the whole thing, but and I know that we're supposed to work together because you sent me a PowerPoint, and the file name on that PowerPoint when I went to go save it, and this is when you and I didn't know each other that well, the file name was 11/17 _ 2015. And I legit lost it because it was so meaningful because of the context of what it was around, whether or not we were going to work together and build what we're doing now, which is still in its infancy, but really build a whole network of programming and help change people's lives in the best way that we can. And that's our hope. That's what we're working on. And it was solidified with that number.
I know. It's so incredible how the universe works when you really need those signs to be there for you, to be your affirmations, like when you're really in those crossroads, if you lose someone or you're trying to make a decision or things just don't make sense, to be able to just ask. And it's such an affirmation, isn't it? Like it just really makes you believe again that there is that power greater than you.
Exactly. And again, everybody's signs are going to be different. And if you're just asking for a sign from the universe, and you do something like what Karen did, if you've never done it before, ask for something ridiculous. You will be shocked. You will be shocked. And again, if like where Karen brought up the bird, it was a blue bird, then go look up what that means spiritually. In Karen's case, her mother-in-law loved bluebirds, but I also bet when she looked up what bluebirds meant or mean, there was significance there. So if there's a little bird that comes to you every day, I know that for my husband and I, there's a cardinal that comes to our window and its mate every day. Cardinals mean something to me. And then I looked up what they mean, and it makes it even more significant. So there's usually spiritual meanings behind things. And sometimes it's not. Again, Bob 7-6, I don't need to look that up. Like I know what that is. So, but we would love for you to try, play, and let us know. You can email us at connect@seekingcenter.app. You can DM us at Seeking Center Official. And remember to sign up for our newsletter, the weekly, at seekingcenter.app. If anyone's looking for a resource on signs, we will have a little write-up in our newsletter this week. And we're also going to start putting our newsletters on seekingcenter.app. So if you missed the newsletter and you want to find it, we'll have it there. In addition, another really good resource is Laura Lynn Jackson's book called Signs. So check that out. If you haven't read that, haven't heard of it, she does a really wonderful job in capturing signs from all over and how you can look for signs as well. Thanks, everyone. Hey!